Afternoon, Jeremy.
Extraordinary from our point of view. You're there. We see a speech with very little substance that decided to concentrate in its entirety on attacking a man who's only got 5 seats. Whatever your political persuasion, I should say, that's what he's decided to do. That the Tories are non-existent, right? That's the first thing I want to talk about. And then the even more unprecedented prime ministerial address by Nigel Farage in front of 2 flags, basically saying, you've called me and all my supporters racist, and that is dangerous with what's going on in the world. Your response, Ryan?
Yeah, no, it's totally kicked off really in the last hour or so. So Keir Starmer used that party conference speech, you know, the party faithful. In the actual hall, it feels like they were lapping it up. Look at the applause that he got, you know, standing ovations several times throughout that speech. But how does those attacks on Nigel Farage actually play out in the country? Well, it seems at the moment that it's not gone down too well. Just look at that response from Nigel Farage himself. I mean, it's a big call to say that, you know, question whether Nigel Farage loves this country. But Sir Keir Starmer says Nigel Farage in his sights, and he feels like that's the only way that he's got to claw back support from the wider public and to try and shore up his leadership. But I think that attack, we don't normally see it like that. We normally see maybe some quotes or maybe a response a few hours after you know, a Prime Minister's speech or a leader's speech at party conference. But Nigel Farage out within 10-15 minutes to respond to that, and pretty angry.
From your political point of view, you know, I mean, yes, I mean he made some joke the other day about, you know, Farage derangement syndrome. This is becoming more obvious by the minute. What was it? The leader of the Liberal Democrats the other day, Sir Ed Davey, at his conference in Bournemouth, mentioned Farage 32 times. It is extraordinary to think, is it not, that a party with just 5 seats, yes, they're riding high in the polls. There's no obvious reason to believe that they will or won't run the next. We don't know. Nobody knows. But does it not say something that a man with over 400 seats is that terrified of what's going on? I've nothing against it. They're going to be personal. They do it to each other's. But it was extraordinary to me. It was literally all on Farage. And you're right. In that hall, it will be lapped up by Labour. There will be newspapers on the Labour side who will lap it up. But I think the point that Farage was trying to make later on was, what are you saying to millions and millions of people, right, who are so frustrated with the United Kingdom? This is what I find them. I mean, you know, listen, I'll be very honest. I was a lifelong Tory until the last election, but to say that Nigel Farage and Reform are un-British, don't like Britain, for a man who spent his entire time selling us down the river as a globalist by he and his left-wing human rights lawyer mates giving away the Chagos Islands, giving 500 million to the French to do bugger all about immigration, it seems to me like he is in panic mode, which says an awful lot, I think, about where Farage is. But then the Farage response, I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't think I've ever... And this is a question for you. Has anybody mentioned the Tories, Ryan, at all?
I actually just written a piece just now, and one thing I pointed out, look how much Keir Starmer actually mentioned Nigel Farage. I don't think that Sir Keir Starmer mentioned Kemi Badenoch not once. I'm pretty sure he didn't. I don't even think there's a gentle hint at Kemi Badenoch in that speech. And it seems to me that Sir Keir Starmer is just absolutely running scared of Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage is doing all the political running in this country. And Nigel Farage, it's all very well and good. The party leaders expect the to and fro and the attacks. But Nigel Farage has clocked this and thought, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is actually obsessing over him. And it's not just Sir Keir Starmer. Pretty much every single cabinet minister's speech, the Chancellor, the Home Secretary, they all mention Nigel Farage. I mean, there are so many polls. I think Reform have led in pretty much all of them over the past 6 months or so.
The last 101 polls, I only know that. I know that for a fact. The last 101 polls.
It's a lot, and it seemed to me that they were getting closer to sort of winning a majority in those polls. But there was a poll done today by More in Common, and it seems that Nigel Farage is getting well over that line. So that is why Sir Keir Starmer is obsessed with it. But the racism row is interesting. Nigel Farage points out if you're saying that his policies, Nigel Farage's policies, are racist, well, lots of people in the country like the cut of Nigel Farage's jib. So are you calling all those Farage supporters, perhaps those people who are part of that 30% cohort backing reform, are you saying they're racist too? So I think this is just going to, Sir Keir Starmer said that, talks about division. Is this just going to sow even more division?
I mean, I think that's a really interesting point. And Nigel Farage finished by talking about what happened in America with Charlie Kirk. I mean, I've had the biggest response ever so far, and Ian, to this speech, because people are basically saying, so on the one hand, you're saying that anybody supporting reform doesn't care about the United Kingdom. I would respectfully suggest that the majority of people who at this moment are saying, I would vote reform, are simply saying, we are sick to death of you taking this country to be an easy ride, whether you're coming in illegally or you're work shy or you're just taking advantage. I said something the other day, Rai, which I stand by absolutely, and I try and keep as straight on this as I can. I think it's really, really dangerous. Well, no, dangerous is the wrong word. I think it's a massive, massive own goal for him to be stupid enough, Starmer, to think that he is going to get away for the rest of his life by saying anybody that supports, and I've suspected it wrong, Farage is a racist or far right. Forget this station, forget the Sun, forget Labour conference. Go north of the M25 gap. Go to a place I spend loads of time in, Newcastle, full of working class men and women. That is pure reform, because they will say, we thought Labour were going to help us, working people. We thought that they were going to help with growth. They've done nothing. They've sat in London and proved themselves to perhaps be as bad, if not worse, than the Tories. So when he says on the one hand, reform and other parties don't care, but the obsession with Nigel Farage, but just hold on, shocking moment, Ryan Sabey. I've got an exclusive. I need some tumbleweed music. Could I get some tumbleweed music, please? Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative Party leader, has just responded, Ryan. Turn that sound down a little because poor Ryan can't hear. This is what Kemi Badenoch just said, Ryan. Keir Starmer has all but confirmed that tax rises are coming. The Prime Minister could have used his speech to own up to the mistakes he's made on the economy, admit this country was living beyond its means, and set out a plan to avoid punishing tax hikes this autumn, but he did not. In Labour's first year, inflation has doubled, economic growth has halved, and unemployment has risen almost every single month. Everyone in Britain will now pay the price for Starmer's weakness with a smaller economy and higher taxes. That, Ryan Sabey, is Kemi Badenoch. Does anybody care? Cut the music.
Yeah, not particularly. I think the biggest the difficulty for her is the fact that she's got to try and grab the attention. Now, there seems to be only sort of one show in town at the moment, and it's Nigel Farage and Sir Keir Starmer. And she goes up to a party conference this weekend trying to grab some attention, but it's just proving really, really difficult. And I think the interesting thing about her comment there is that she doesn't get involved in that racism row or the immigration. She is thinking, right, the Conservative Party are just going to concentrate on the economy, food inflation going up by the end of the year, the cost of living crisis still really, really difficult. So in one sense you can think maybe it's sort of smart politics, but she's not getting involved in the real battle of today. So on one hand, she maybe sort of think that's the best way that she can actually steal some headlines and grab some attention, but she really needs to sort of fight Nigel Farage and Keir Starmer on the terms that they've set today. Otherwise, she's just going to be totally lost in this political argument.
I mean, you can see it now. There's a vacuum, and you can see that she's going to go to the Tory party conference to talk about the ECHR, and everybody's going to go, well, Farage talked about that. I said this yesterday on the show. I felt like, right or wrong, good or bad, what Farage seems to do is he seems to grab the initiative. He seems to be on the front foot. Everybody else seems to be reactionary. But from your political knowledge, from the job that you've done, Starmer using his entire speech not to talk about how he'd improve the country, but to attack a man that's just got 5 MPs, which includes himself, and to make those two comments. One, Nigel Farage doesn't love the United Kingdom, and two, everybody that supports him is essentially a racist and a bigot and far right. In your political experience, is that not a panicked and rather huge-looking mistake right now?
Yeah, I think it just shows that, Keir Starmer is running scared of Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage he's setting the political weather, and Sir Keir Starmer he doesn't know how to grapple with that. This is the sort of unknown. We're so used to two-party politics, Conservatives against Labour, that we've got this third party who is doing the running. And I think it's going to be really, really difficult for Sir Keir to actually sort of grab the initiative back in the next few months and years. And we're so far away from a general election, so this argument about division and the racism argument, immigration, is just going to ramp up and ramp up. And I think one thing that Sir Keir Starmer also mentioned in his speech was talking about the economy and talking about how businesses bore the brunt of the tax rises last year, and saying in the long term he thinks that will be good. That will be good for growth. Well, try telling that to the businesses who are having to pay more national insurance.
Absolutely.
So again, it was a very, very difficult argument to sort of tell that and explain. I'm not quite sure Sir Keir Starmer got that one right. I mean, time may tell that, but it seems to me that taxing more people doesn't,
I think
more growth.
I think what today shows, whatever your politics, I think today shows me something that I've believed for a while, that our Prime Minister does not have the political know-how, the political antennae, just doesn't read the room, doesn't smell it, right? Love or hate Nigel Farage, right? He seems to have his finger on the pulse. He seems to have the ear of Great Britain. Whether he's right or wrong, time will tell. I think Starmer has had a second one ripped by Nigel Farage in the last hour. I genuinely believe that. And that is not me sitting here saying that Farage is going to be right in everything he does. But that was our Prime Minister panicking 14 months after walking into Downing Street and basically saying this man and anybody who supports him is a racist. Ryan, keep your nose to the ground, mate, doing a fantastic job with the sun up there. The Labour Party conference in Liverpool. Ryan Sabey.